Welcome everyone to my first ever series of Who Killed Jeffrey Epstein. I am super excited to talk about this. This is my first one, so please give me grace. It's a lot of work. I'm not gonna lie. It's a lot of work putting things together, getting information about Jeffrey Epstein, how this whole big scandal came about, and I'm just gonna dive in and talk about how this billionaire got away with sex trafficking for over a decade without anyone knowing. How the hell he got away and not serving time, just only 18 months. He got a sweetheart deal, and along with his co-conspirators as well. But I'm gonna dive in and tell you what I know and my opinions about the whole Jeffrey Epstein. But when people have this big scandal and do crazy things, inappropriate things that's just unthinkable, unspeakable, you have to go way back. You got to go back from the beginning and tell this storyline, how this man become a pedophile, a human trafficking and sex trafficking, and just having sex with underage girls and sending them off to their friends like there's some piece of meat and they were underage. And how that prosecutors just gave him a slap on the wrist, basically. Gave him a slap on the wrist, a sweetheart deal. He only served 18 months. It's just really ridiculous and really unjust. And I'm just gonna dive in and tell you my opinion, my perspective of this whole scandal and this whole thing about his suicide death and I keep saying it, and I'm going to stand by this. I believe it was not a suicide. I believe he was murdered because he knew too much. He knew too much information to the point that he would rat people out. And a lot of people are speculating he could have been an informant. A lot. I believe the FBI have some part to do with it because, they have that black book. They have the names of the co-conspirators. Why they're not releasing it? And my thing is, the new FBI director, Kash Patel, he should demand that black book. He should demand it, to be honest with you. He should demand that black book and let the public be aware of it. Will that happen? Probably not. I'm just telling you, in my honest opinion, that will never happen. We will never know the names of the co-conspirators that were involved. I don't care what they tell you, that the names are going to be released, and then once we find out the names, we're just going to be sick by it. I seen the flight logs, and if I say call logs, I mean flight logs. So I apologize for that. I get the things mixed up, but you know what I mean. Flight logs. Those flight logs are irrelevant. Okay, you see the names like I keep saying, but you can barely read them, okay? You can see Bill Clinton, you can see Donald Trump, you can see Bill Murray, you can see other names, but the rest of them are just initials that we don't know who they are, except for the FBI and the people that's working in the government. They know the names of that list and the flight logs. We don't know. So if I'm gonna keep saying this, if you print the flight logs and look at it, you don't know what you're looking at. You don't know what you're looking at unless you do some research and dig in more of who are the names. And I'm just telling you, they're just giving us the bare minimum. But with that being said, I don't want to ramp on this because I already ramped enough about this foolishness flight log, because it's just foolishness and it's just ridiculous, and they're not giving us any information. And I have to be honest, we will never know who killed Jeffrey Epstein. We will never know the names because they don't want the names to be revealed, because some of them had that offer of that sweetheart deal back in, I can't remember, 2000 something. I can't remember. I don't know. I'm just going to tell you what I know and the research that I have done about Jeffrey Epstein, and we're going to go from the beginning. So we're going to dive in, twists and turns of the scandal. But before we start, we have to go way back in the beginning and find out who was Jeffrey Epstein. Who was he? Because he was a billionaire. And for someone who was a financier, he made a whole lot of money, and where all that money came from. So I'm going to dive into that. I'm going to dive into his background of the school that he went to, what school that he teach, and things like that. So with that being said, thank you so much for joining Who Killed Jeffrey Epstein, and here we go. Who was Jeffrey Epstein? Jeffrey Epstein was born on January 20th in Brooklyn, New York, near the Coley Islands. He lived in a gated community called Seagates, and it was a Italian Jewish neighborhood, very family-oriented, very safe. His parents were working middle class. His dad was a gardener and a groundkeeper. In New York City department. And his mother was a homemaker, where she took a lot of oh my God, I'm saying secondary. I'm thinking medical right now and I shouldn't, so I'm sorry. Secretary jobs, sorry, woo! Anyway, and his younger brother, Mark Epstein. So, I'm just gonna break it down to you. I'm just gonna tell you what I know and the research that I have done. Epstein did very well in school, very well, very smart young boy. He was really good with math. He was so smart to the point that he skipped a grade. He skipped 3rd grade, 8th grade, graduated from high school at the age of 16. That's just wild. Not wild, it's not unheard of. If you're very smart and you go with numbers, apparently, which he was good with numbers, you get skipped a grade back in those days. And that's what happened. So he skipped a grade, graduated from high school at the age of 16. He attended Cooper Union, studied engineering for 2 years. Then he enrolled himself at NYC to study mathematical biology, and I'm throwing a blank, I'm trying to remember, physiology. Then in the summer of 1994, he took a job at a private school called Dalton, and it's in the Upper East Side of Manhattan, and it's a very wealthy private school. But what's crazy about this is Epstein never got a college degree, and he was teaching physics and math classes. Never got a college degree, never graduated. How weird is that? That this man just started teaching math and physics and had no degree. Well, apparently it seemed like the headmaster found out about it, and he was not very happy, and he was going to fire Jeffrey Epstein until Jeffrey Epstein worked his magic and told him something, which I don't know what the conversation was exchanged between the both gentlemen, but he stayed. And according to my notes and everything, and what I have learned about Jeffrey Epstein, he's good with his words. He's good at using his words to manipulate people, to convince them things, basically suck them in to believe him. And that's apparently what happened. Apparently that's what happened with the headmaster, that whatever Jeffrey Epstein said to him, that he stayed and continued teaching physics and math, and until he connected with one of the students' father at the school, Alan Greenberg. Alan Greenberg was a chief executive officer of Bear Stearns. So I believe that was like, not a hedge fund, but that does like start markets and stuff like that. So Greenberg hired Epstein and worked at a stock options, and also giving wealthy clients on tax strategy. And he was making a whole lot of money than his teaching gig. Then in 1976 to 1981, Epstein leaves the teaching and rise through a rank of Bear Stearns at a First Trading. So he was making good money, and then like what he's seen, he was limited partner. So apparently, you know, like I said, Epstein was good with numbers. So apparently Epstein was making that firm a lot of money. On top of that, he was making money himself, and he never seen that much money in his life, that he quit. He quit. So, and then he was working side by side with Alan Greenberg. But check this out, you guys. Then later on, and I don't know the year of this, but he also worked with Stephen Hoffman to develop strategies for incorporating trading to take over a valuable corporation. But it seemed like that Jeffrey Epstein was doing some shady things by taking money from clients but not investing in the clients. That money was just, I guess, clients were complaining like, where's my money? Where's my money? Like, how come I'm not getting a return investment? And apparently Epstein was spending the money that he shouldn't have been spending and doing something with the money and owing other people money from the client's money. And then, so it seemed like his friend that hired him, Alan Greenberg, took the fall, pleaded guilty of SEC charges connection to the $475 million that's missing, that was stolen, okay? And it was in fraud. And at that time, it was the largest Ponzi scheme in history, okay? The largest Ponzi scheme. And Epstein was nowhere to be found, nowhere to be seen. He disappeared at that time because he knew what was happening. He knew what was to come. And then this man who hired him, who gave him a chance, took the fall, pleaded guilty. That's not your friend. He was not a good friend to that man. Jeffrey Epstein was just only for himself, and he just wanted to get what he wanted, and that's it. And he made this man took the fall and served time. Now, in 1991, Jeffrey Epstein meets Maxwell, Ghislaine Maxwell. Hopefully I'm saying her name right. And that was his ticket. You know why? Because she was in the high society. She was the elite, okay? This woman had money through her father. Who is her father? Her father is Robert Maxwell. And he was a press baron in the United Kingdom. And he owned the Daily Mirror group of newspapers. Very wealthy man, very well connected. He knew people, okay? He knew people a lot. And when Jeffrey Epstein met her, he's like, yes, this is my golden ticket. This is my golden ticket to meet other influencers, other famous people. So he can, work his magic, use his words, what words he needs to use to connect through her. Because again, she was the elite, she was the elite. She knew a lot of people. She knew a lot of people in the United Kingdom, some in the States as well. So again, that was his golden ticket. Okay, to next when I dive in more into this, how this whole human trafficking started in the first place, it was through her. She's the one who orchestrated some of it. And of course, Jeffrey Epstein was part of it as well. And among other people, co-conspirators that were involved in this. And it's just crazy to me how this whole human trafficking of having sex with underage girls was happening for so long. Like, this was like in the 90s, you guys, the 90s. How crazy is that? In the 90s. And no one didn't know. No one didn't say anything. And like I said, when you have money, power, influencer, you can get away with a lot of things. Like the rich get away with a lot of things, and opposed to a middle class people. When if you do something like that, have sex with underage girls, you go to jail, you go to prison. That's just simple as that. But I guess, with the rich, there's two different classes. There's two different, the system, the law. When you're rich and you have money, you have people, you can get away with anything, especially murder. But when you middle class people like me and you, who done things unthinkable that you shouldn't have been doing, then you serve time. So in my opinion, there's two laws for two different people, for the rich and for the poor. And that's sad to say, but it is true. It is true. When you're rich and you have money and you have people that high connected people, you can get away with anything. You can get away with having sex with underage girls. You can get away with murder because people will clean up your mess. And on top of that, they might have blackmail, use things against you for things to go away. And I believe that's what Jeffrey Epstein did, because he had cameras, he had photographs, he had everything in his apartment in New York, among other places too. He had dirt on people, and I believe that's why things were swept underneath the rug in regards to him, because he knew too much and he knew a lot. And with this series, we're going to dive in and find out, who knew what and what was the connection and why for this long that this happened. And then this sweetheart deal that he got from Alexandra Costa, I believe he knew too much. I believe he probably had sex with some of these underage girls, allegedly. I don't know. For him to give him that sweetheart deal and some of the co-conspirator is just unfathomable, unspeakable. It was just disgusting. And not letting the victims know, because you knew they wouldn't allow this. You knew that they wouldn't be okay with it, but he did it anyway. Which it didn't make sense to none of the people that were involved in this case and putting this case together to prosecute Jeffrey Epstein. But he just served 18 months, you guys. 18 months. How pathetic for child prostitution. Like, really, get serious. Child prostitution, at the age of 13 or 14, a child is not a prostitute, okay? They're in school. They're in middle school. But that's what they did. That's what they gave the sweetheart deal to Jeffrey Epstein. But I'm not going to jump ahead, because that's in the next segment that I'm going to talk about in the sweetheart deal, how he just got away with basically murder and basically having sex with underage girls. And a lot of people got away with it. And to be honest with you, even though I'm doing this series, because I found this whole case and this whole situation very interesting, not to the victims, because I really feel bad for the victims, and the victims should get justice, pardon me, and I feel like the justice was taken away from them because Epstein was dead. They didn't get any justice out of it. He did not serve time. Someone killed him. And that's what I believe. I believe he got killed because he knew too much, okay? People can have their own theories because they're entitled to their opinion. This is me saying this. This is not my conspiracy theory. I believe Jeffrey Epstein got killed in his cell, okay, on August 10th of 2019. I believe that firmly. I don't believe it was a suicide. After looking at the autopsy and talking to the medical examiner, getting their input, even though they were not involved in the case, but I got their input, and then they even told me, and I'm not gonna release that person's name because I want that person to be confidential, and I told that person I would not give the name. However, this particular medical examiner told me, and I showed the pictures of Jeffrey Epstein's neck and everything, that person said there's no way on earth that this man hanged himself. This was a strangulation. Point blank period, especially the 3 fractured bones around his neck. That person told me there's no way. It's very rare and impossible for this man to hang himself and to have 3 fractures around his neck. There's no way. There's no way. I believe, in my opinion, the woman who did the medical examiner, she dropped the ball. She probably got paid. Someone paid her. I don't know. I'm just putting my thoughts out there. She probably got paid, and then they probably told her to alter the autopsy, say this, say that, opposed to not telling the truth what really happened. And now also I'm going to tell you another doctor who even said that her reporting, her findings were inconsistent. Dr. Baden, he even said that this was not suicide, excuse me, a strangulation. This was not a suicide. Even he said it, and he's well known in the medical field in New York City, which I'm going to go into in the next series. But I just wanted to tell you this because, when I talked to that medical examiner, I was telling this person that, I was doing my research on Jeffrey Epstein, and by me doing the research and reading everything, and in the autopsy report, it did not make sense to me. It did not make sense to me. And in the pictures of Jeffrey Epstein's cell, like, it didn't make sense. I feel like it was all staged. It was all set up. Like, think about it. 2 of the cameras were out. The lights were out. The guards were sleeping. His cell was a mess with 10 sheets around. he had sleep apnea. Okay, there was a sleeping. There was like the machine. Let's use our thinking caps. Let's use our common sense. If this man wanted to kill himself, he could have used that long extension cord from the sleeping machine and hang himself. Why try to use a noose to do that? It doesn't make any sense to me. And he had a pen too. He could easily took that pen and stab it in his neck. Okay, 1, 2, 3, you're dead. No, this was all a stage. Okay, it doesn't make any sense to me, and no one's not questioning that. They're just saying it's a suicide. There's no note. They're just going by what they seen on. What they seen on in his cell, like post-mortem. I don't understand it. It doesn't make any sense to me. I'm not a doctor, okay? I'm not a medical doctor, but I do have eyes and I can read. And what I see from the autopsy reports and the pictures in his jail cell, it doesn't make sense. There is consistency of all of this. And like I said, we will never know who killed Jeffrey Epstein. What I will say is this: he did not kill himself. This was planned. This was staged to look like he killed himself, okay? Because he was supposed to have an inmate with him that night, but the inmate transferred all of a sudden. Get it? Transfer. And did not replace another cellmate with him. Why? Because they didn't want no evidence. They didn't want no witnesses. Point blank, period. Okay, let's use our thinking caps. Let's use our common sense. Despite how you feel about Jeffrey Epstein, and let me just be very, very clear, that man was a pedophile. That man was disgusting, and he deserved everything that was coming to him when he was arrested. But with that being said, it was not fair to the victims because someone took this man's life without him even being prosecuted and served time for the rest of his pathetic life. That was not fair to the victims that were tortured by this man, that he sex trafficking those minors at the time. That was not right. And they took that away from that victims, which that was so unjust, okay? Because they were so afraid that Jeffrey Epstein would be a whistleblower, basically by releasing some names because he was an informant, supposedly, or he knew too much. And then the people that were involved with this, they were too scared. They didn't want to risk that. Even though some of them signed that sweetheart deal that wouldn't implement them in the future, okay? They were like, what's the word? Exempt, okay? So there was more people that were involved. And I'm telling you, that black book, that book is the key. That's what we need to see. Will we see that? I'm being honest. No, we're not going to see it. But if I was the FBI director, Kash Patel, I would demand the people from the FBI release that black book because the FBI, they have it. They raided his apartment, okay? They took everything, you guys. They took photograph of nude underage girls, okay? There was cameras, there was passports, there was money, there was everything that they took. The FBI knows, okay? They know the names in that black book and they're not releasing it. Why? I do not know. If I was the director, like I said, the director of the FBI, I would demand it. And if they're not going to obtain that, then people should be fired in the FBI department. They should be fired. They should be fired. And the U.S. General Attorney, Pam Bondi, she should demand that too. She should demand that black book be released and the names that in that black book should be arrested. Point blank, period. I don't know what they're waiting for. I don't know what they're waiting for. That flight log, like I keep saying, is just a bunch of BS. It's just blowing hot air. You cannot, in order for you to understand the flight log, you have to go way back, like I said. You have to go to the manifest of 2005 because 2005 manifest from all the certain passengers and that manifest, some of the names are consistent with the flight log. But again, you have to look. If you're looking at the flight log, you don't know what you're looking at and you don't know what you're seeing because it doesn't make any sense. When I first saw it, it did not make any sense to me, you guys. It did not make any sense until I did some digging and I pulled up the manifest from 2005, from January 1st to October 6th of 2005, okay? And some of the names in that manifest, I seen some of the names in that flight log, okay? Again, you have to do your research. You have to know what you're looking at. By looking at that flight log, unless you know all the names of the initials, then God bless you. God bless you if you know that. I didn't even know. I don't know none of the initials, okay? The only names that was legible that I can read, I saw Donald Trump. I saw the name of Bill Murray. I saw a name of Bill Clinton. That's about it. Everything else is just initials. Everything else is blackened. Like, you can't read it. And I just feel like, in my opinion, it's just really injustice to the public, because you sharing this, you put it in public knowledge, not public knowledge, and in the website, when people don't know what they're reading or what they're looking at. I just feel like it's just unjust. I feel like it's just not right. And I just feel like, you know, whoever gave them that flight log was just buying time. And like I said, we will never know. We will never know the real truth of two things, okay? Who killed Jeffrey Epstein, and also the names of the co-conspirators. I believe, in my opinion, that we will never know, because maybe all the evidence were destroyed when they raided his house, okay? Because why haven't they released the names? How long has it been? We're in 2025 now, and they have not released the names in that black book. It's probably destroyed, to be honest with you. It's probably non-existent. But anyway, I just want to say thank you so much for watching this series. I hope I did a good job. And if I didn't, that's okay, because there's still part 2 and part 3 of my 3-part series of Who Killed Jeffrey Epstein. And I just want to say I'm having fun with this, just doing the work, the research. It's not easy. It's not easy, but I am having fun, and I just hope that you guys can join me to unreveal I can't even speak, because I'm just like, I'm just so excited, and I don't, you know, when you're excited about something, you just don't know how to react or what the words to say that's coming out of your mouth. So I'm just going to say this. I cannot wait until I share more information with you guys of my 2nd part series of Who Killed Jeffrey Epstein. So stay tuned for another episode, which I'm going to uncover the truth behind who killed Jeffrey Epstein. This is just the beginning. Thank you so much for watching. That's it with Cheryl, and I will see you guys next time. Take care. I wanted to correct myself really quick. It's Ghislaine Maxwell, because you probably asked me, who's this woman that Cheryl's referring to, who Jeffrey Epstein meets in 1991. Well, her name is Ghislaine Maxwell, and I probably said her name incorrectly or wrong, so I wanted to correct myself so you know who I'm talking about. And again, her name is Ghislaine Maxwell, and that's it.